Hey, and good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. My name's Rod Hutchings, and it's just 1 a.m. here, so very early here. So I'm really looking forward to today's panel, where we'll be looking at AI and human-centered org change, and what a timely topic, and should be a good conversation. And I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with the panelists. And let's, without further ado, let's bring them forward, please. Wow, we've got a nice full panel today. And yeah, really, as I said, looking forward to our conversation. And so to get us going, let's just do our little do some intros, and maybe just share a little bit about what really fascinates you about this topic. And we'll go around clockwise, and we'll start with Angelique. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Angelique Hamilton. I'm the founder and the CEO of the HR Chic Group. We are a human resources and design consultancy firm helping the small business and startup create better cultures. This topic is really top of mind for me, and I'm interested in it so much because it is actually helping to evolve the things that we call people-centered design and people operations. So definitely glad to be here amongst a great group.
Yes. Thank you, Angelique. And welcome, Cara.
Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am based out of Los Angeles, California. I work on a global scale. I'm the founder and global CHRO for Global People Transformation. I've been at the CHRO level for quite some time, both in-house and going in to different clients and helping them with their people transformation. So this is something that is technology has always been near and dear to my heart, especially from an HR perspective and the impact it can have. So from an AI perspective, it is very, very exciting for the amount of positive impact it can not only have to human resources, but the business as a whole, and people's overall engagement and happiness in the workplace. So thank you for having me.
Welcome, and really looking forward to having a conversation, Cara. And welcome back, Anna.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you again. Thank you, Rod. So I'm coming to you from the place that is spearheading AI and empowering it really to make it happen. I'm seated in the Silicon Valley, Northern California, and I really breathe and enjoy every moment of it, full of empowered and technology really happening things. My job is to facilitate transformation within organizations, especially on the human aspect. My background is organizational development and design. I do a lot of management of change. And with that being said, I'm also having, let's say, a role within an AI organization, which I love and enjoy. So it's not only work, I also do a lot of research around the topic. And I would like to share that with our audience today.
Excellent. It's always great to speak with you, Anna. So thank you. And welcome back as well, Charmaine.
Hi, everyone. I am on the East Coast of the US, so it is just after 10 for me, and I am trying to embrace that fall is here because I'm in a sweater. And I am the founder and CEO of Chapter 2 LLC, which is an organizational leadership and employee optimization consultancy, and we leverage data-backed insights to help us with our strategy development processes for our clients. And I am really excited about this topic because who is not talking about AI?
I know. It's crazy. And there's definitely a lot of change as well, I think, in talking about it. Like I had someone I know, went for a job and did use AI to, help him in writing some of the input for it. And, he was knocked back because he used AI. So it's quite, should you or shouldn't you? Like, doesn't mean that you don't have the skills or knowledge just because you try and use it, the AI chatbots to help you write something, help portray yourself. So there's a lot of learning on both sides, I guess, about the whole topic. And so it's a really changing environment. All right, so let's get started, and I'll start coming to Angelique first. And so I'm just curious about, how do you balance AI integration with the human element in organizations? So what strategies can ensure AI enhances rather than disrupts the workplace culture? Big
Yeah,
question.
I mean, I was like, that's definitely a big question, because right now, AI is viewed as like the arch enemy. Like, let's
Mm,
avoid the conversation, avoid the topic. We're not going to use it. It will displace workers, but we have to view AI as a tool. That's really what it is. It's a tool for
mm,
us to enable us to be more effective, more efficient in our processes. And when we're able to do that with people, I think at the center of everything we do, we're able to have a more effective workplace. We're able to optimize some of the processes that are very redundant or outdated. And
mm,
I actually view this as more or less as a tool that helps the everyday worker do more things, that they can be more, strategic, not that tactical approach to the work. And I think that's what's really changing the workforce. Probably just less than a year ago, we were just talking about AI, and now you're seeing more organizations really adopt to it and adapt to it pretty quickly. And every day in the news, you see a new article about some new organization that has really modified their workplace with the introduction of AI. So I think it's
mm.
really essential and very important.
No, exactly. Anyone else want to add on to Angelique's start on the big question? Anna.
Yes, I want to emphasize one thing which sometimes really it slips our mind, and whatever we do, wherever we do it, especially more in a corporate environment, we need to be very, very, very strategic. What do we want really to achieve? And with that being said, I was in a big AI conference, and all the IT were telling me, they asked me really to make everything AI empowered, but we don't really know exactly what we want to achieve. And that is so much important. So even AI integration needs to be very much targeted towards the strategic initiatives that you have. So you start with the end in mind. What do you really want to achieve as a corporation? And then you find the ways really to integrate AI into that, because that means that you will have a different kind of view of how things are being done. But this does not change what you want to achieve. So I want to very much emphasize not to get distracted by the fact that we want to integrate AI. We need to have the end in our mind and integrate AI in order to do that. I say that because when you have that in your mind, you understand what is the real capabilities that you want to have as an organization, and you go for achieving these capabilities with AI integration or any other thing that you would like to, but in this specific case with that. Still, the strategic mind is required.
I think that's you've made some great points there. Got to be really clear about the purpose and be clear about, this is what the organization, wants to achieve. And this is how, the team fits into that as well, is probably important as well. So there's just not that ambiguity, because it's certainly, a changing place. Anyone else got any additions?
Yeah, I was going to say both agree with both Angelique and Anna. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is, how then you go about that, right? So having a deep understanding of what the business objectives are and how you're going to get there, not only short term, but really long term. A lot of the people that I speak to think about AI from a short-term perspective and being able to implement and going straight in, but really thinking about the long-term strategy and what the value is, creating a value map to be able to show transparently to the workforce how it is that AI is going to enhance being able to, achieve those objectives, and then how you're going to get there. So I think, both of what they said and a lot of, cross collaboration in being able to do that and showing the value and being transparent right from the beginning can, really enhance the success.
Yeah, I think you make some great points there, Cara. I think that, and that sort of my next question, you've sort of started to answer, I think, already, which was really about, our audience here is HR leaders typically. So, how can they maintain engagement and trust during the transformation that it's going to be a bit of a journey, I think, for the next number of years, and particularly around how do you maintain that engagement and trust with this whole cloud of concerns about job security, which is, definitely front of mind for many people as well. Anyone got any ideas about probably extending? I think Cara started on this about enhancing engagement and trust during the transformation, particularly from a lens of being a HR leader.
Well, I would say, from HR leader, from HR standpoint, the first thing to establish trust is, it's a part of the relationship is communication. I think where the organizations that are failing in introducing AI is that they're communicating at the top level and not sharing it with the greater body of their organization. You have to involve everyone as a part of this. Again, it's a tool. It's all about really building the capacity and the competency of your workers. So ensuring that you're upskilling and reskilling so that they can adapt to the use of AI. I think that's important. And just being very transparent. We're in the process of looking at, for Q1 of 2025 and implementing this process in said department and ensuring that everyone has an understanding about it. And if there is some form of displacement in terms of an employee, how do you skill that individual that they can be able to do an alternative work or alternative opportunity within the organization? So I think essentially the two key items are definitely transparency and communication.
Yeah, great points, Angelique. Yeah, definitely clear communication. And yeah, like providing reassurance around the whole job evolution rather than elimination is key, and there's definitely some very specific skills around how do we ensure that we leverage AI to the best extent, and that's going to take intentional effort on people, and people are going to need to be upskilled to be able to do that. I guess
Rod, I wanted to add.
Yeah, go on, Charmaine.
I wanted to say that, it's really, I love the transparency and communication part. And that was written in my notes too around this as you were talking, because transparency really is proactive, right? And honesty is reactive. So the other part of that is how often and in what ways are you showing people that it actually is an enabler, not a replacement? Because a lot of this goes back to my lizard brain is going off, right? We all have it. It's just the way the brain's wired when I am under stress or anxiety, and stress and anxiety is going to happen when there's a lot of ambiguity. So how do we eliminate that is over communicating, but over communicating has to be in a way that resonates with your audience. Do you understand what your people are worried about? How are you communicating, the frequency and what you're communicating? And specifically, what are you communicating to them? Because if anything sounds like the robots are taking over, because that's where some people's minds go, people are going to shut down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I guess one thing that I also try and reflect on, like I've been in the industry and technology, for more years than I want to admit, but you know, there's always been change coming with technology implementation, and yeah, I'm just curious. Like to me, you know, in my career, there seems to be more ramped up concern with AI than there's been with some of the things we might have implemented 20 years ago. So I'm just curious, does anyone see any difference to this current sort of evolution versus changes that you've seen previously with this whole approach of the human technology sort of balance and transformation? Because it certainly happened before over the last 20, 30 years, that's for sure. It just seems to be the next one in my mind, but yeah, people might have different experiences. So, Anna.
I would like to say that what has been very much mentioned is so much in line with the requirements right now. It is a different change compared to other technological changes for a couple of reasons. The main one, though, is the fact that AI is learning by itself and becomes very independent. So we believe that it's going to reach the level of singularity and pretty soon, which means that humans will be facilitating the process, not necessarily needed in that process. Yet, the human is going to still be leading the thing. And that's the difference. That's the difference, because you really need to make sure that the people are sitting in the leading position. And in order to do that, you need to, first of all, change the skills, the capabilities that your people have in order to do that. But second, you really need to change how you operate. So the most important right now is that organizations need to change their operating model so that they have the people at the leading position and the AI really at the working level. So with that being said, that means that we need really to envision a new way of doing things. That means that we need to revisit we need to revisit the whole model, the whole operating model, but then we need to go in there and change our processes. And then we really need to change the handoff points of technology to humans, where humans intervenes when technology really takes over. And we really need to do that in a seamless way so that really the work happens. This is 3 different levels: operating model, processes, human beings with the technology. So we need to think on all these 3 different levels in order to revisit how we're doing things. And the companies that they do it and they do it in that holistic perspective, they're going to do it right with less frictions. That is important. And I would like to say that it is important to accept the fact that AI is different as a technology revolution than any other revolution that has happened up to now.
No, thanks, Anna. That's a good. So again, some great points there. All right, I might move on. So I guess we've sort of painted a picture that you know, there's a lot of change. There's challenges. There's concern around what it is, and it's important to have purpose, important to have communication. And so I guess I want to take us to a place now, understanding organizations have these concerns. If you're going into a new assignment, we've got a number of people who help here with help other organizations. What would be going into an organization some of the biggest challenges in implementing AI, and how would you go about helping the leaders, the HR leaders as well, about overcoming this resistance we've sort of spoken about, and in really gaining employee buy-in? And I'll come to Charmaine to start us off on this little topic. So basically about helping organizations go about implementing AI in the best way.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the first thing we really have to do is acknowledge what's happening for the other human, right? Because we're talking about humans when we're talking about the workplace. Not that AI is not an enabler, but the people are freaking out. The AI is not freaking out about AI. you know,
Yeah.
people are freaking out about AI. So first thing is really understanding what's underlying that. You know, what are they specifically afraid of? You know, we talk about being afraid, but what is it? Are you afraid you're losing your job? Are you afraid that your skills are going to be obsolete? Are you afraid that you're going to have to be the person leading the change, and maybe you're somebody who, you know, doesn't want your cheese moved? You know, what is it? You know, we really have to understand the what before we can get to the how of any form of transformation, and most importantly, like the impact. So one of the things that I talk to people about, you know, my clients, because this is coming up in the conversation a lot too, is what are you specifically as a leader afraid of? How do you see this impact in your business right now? What is the upside and the downside of that, right? Sometimes you have to just let people talk it out, right? You know, that
Mm.
you have to play the what if game with people. And then from them to understand, do they know what the people around them, the people they're leading are? Because they could be two different things. You don't, the worst thing you can do is develop an entire communication strategy that's based solely on you.
Mm.
So talking to them about what is really underlying that, and then trying to help them reframe, you know, even with their teams, where can AI be helpful? You know, one of the things that, you know, I pointed out to someone recently was that this concept started in the 50s. So we're talking about well over 50, 60 years of this concept started. And many people don't recognize that, right? And we've been using it. The way we're using it is evolved and it's dominated headlines. And if anyone's on any form of media, you understand how you can hear the same loop over and over and become, you know, very enamored or very caught up in it. But we've been using this voice recognition, right? You know, talk to text. You know, these things have been going on. Facial recognition, right? However you feel about these things, we have been using different elements of this for a long time. You know,
Mm.
texting and it's guessing the word that you're using. These are things. So the other part is helping people to recognize, hey, you have actually been integrated this in your life, whether or not you recognize it as AI. How did you feel about that? Because once you can help people connect where that enablement has been beneficial for them, that they didn't recognize because it's just part of their life. And I recognize that not everyone around the world has access, but the people who have access, what
Mm.
I've found that bridging that gap to, okay, so what other enablement could this produce now has been helpful.
Yeah, I like all those points about mirroring that the fact that has been in front of us for a long time. Maybe part of the fear is, you know, a lot of the movies, other than maybe Star Wars, made AI look nice, but a lot of movies also, you know, do paint a more gloomy picture. So maybe that's part of our makeup and culture as well, just by, you know, how the movie industry sort of tried to shape it over time. Anyone else want to add on to the topic? How you go about helping gain employee buy-in and overcome resistance?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really more about thinking of it. It's an overall cultural shift for an organization and recognizing that every person within the workforce is different. And so what's driving any kind of reluctancy or fear is different. But really early on, we talked in many of the discussion here about communication, and it's great to have that transparency communication, but it really is about getting that buy-in early and making sure that people are coming along the journey. So having those champions within all different parts of the organization, making sure that they're having input along for the ride. And it's also about, breaking it down. It's not about the entire organization, overhauling everything all at once. It's about thinking about, where is the biggest impact, where that can be a quick win. That success story for the rest of the organization can help the rest of the workforce see, okay, this is what we're, dealing with, and this is a quick win. How does it impact you personally, meaning each person within the organization, and really showing that through and making sure that people have a voice throughout this. And we talked about earlier about upskilling and all of that. It's really important to make sure that the organization has assessed where their people are at from an AI readiness perspective, and what does that look like? and then making sure that you have, a plan on how you're going to address that, and through the, job transitions and, the ability to make sure that everyone can stay within the organization and upskill and be successful as well. And you really look at it as that, tool, like Angelique had said earlier. It is an enhancer. Without the human, connection, AI won't be successful on its own. We need people also to be part of that for the most successful implementations. So,
Anna.
I like very much how the discussion, the direction the discussion is taking right now. I will utilize both the hats of the senior certified HR professional, but also the change management practitioner. I would like really to say that, and I want to give some practical, let's say, tips right now, because our audience might need, specific things to do. So I would like to say that it's important to start with analyzing what is really the areas of the organization that you're integrating AI. You really need to understand where you're going to integrate AI. Why do you do that? What is impacting? And with what is impacting, you need to create a good impact assessment. What are the roles that are impacted and in what way they are impacted? Which means that, are you going to need new skills in these roles? Are you going to measure their performance in a different way? Are you going to need from them different kind of behaviors? Are you going to create different relationships between these roles and other roles within the organization? Are you going really to demand a different kind of attitudes? Are you going really to create a new way of operating of these roles in connection to the other roles? And finally, how abrupt that change would be? Would that happen gradually? What's going to be the pace of it? Is it going to spill over to other areas? And if you really do that analysis very thoroughly, then you know exactly who are the stakeholders in that situation, who have a really high interest in that change, in that AI integration. With that in mind, you create a very focused plan of engaging these people that are much more impacted in comparison to the others. And second, it's not only that you're focused, but you also have a very specific content of communicating and engaging these people by providing solutions to the problems that they face or that they are going to face in the very near future. So you very much targeted in what you say, how you say, and when to say. And this is very much important. Otherwise, it's going to be a vague thing. And I really emphasize a lot, do a very good analysis of what is going to happen. Do a very good stakeholder analysis. Do a very good impact analysis. And with that, you equip anything that you do afterwards. You create a very good architecture of communicating and engaging. So.
And I might sort of go back to a little bit about Charmaine was saying around how AI is used in everyday life, and AI, I guess, in this whole talk about being transparent. How are the organisations that you've got experience with using AI within their organisation, within the HR function? Is there conversation? Is there transparency about that? Does that help demystify some of the concerns people might have? Because it's likely that AI, is already, deeply being used, but do people fully understand that? Do people understand how it's used with, annual surveys or operational type aspects? Has anyone got any experiences to share about that?
I would say that when I've seen it, observed the use of AI when it works well, is that the employee body is being brought along. They're part of the full conversations. I actually believe it starts with education. I think Anna alluded to this first off, is educating your employees on the use, what is the outcome, the sole reason for you using it, and how are you starting this process with an actual plan of use. And just like Charmaine mentioned, we are utilizing AI every day, when you're like, hey Siri, point me to X, Y, and Z. But people are not knowledgeable about that. So I think it first starts about what educating your employees. It's all about buy-in. Create some type of forums, for your employees to actually voice their concerns. They also feel like they need to be heard. So when it has been done well, there's been an opportunity for forums for employees to share their feedback and their sentiment about the use of AI. There's an actual plan of action that is shared collectively with the employees. And in terms of any type of fear or pushback, that comes because there's not been, again, transparency, and there hasn't been communication. There's communication behind the doors instead of in front of the doors, so everyone can see it. So I think it's important when it's really done well. It's all about the way that it's being communicated, how it will enable this employee to do their best work, and how we can also incorporate them to celebrate, as Anna mentioned and Cara mentioned, celebrate those successes, those little steps that they've made in order to do this implementation or indoctrinate this new process to make it really work. So it's all about centering it around people, because without the people, AI doesn't work at all. Yeah.
Very good points. And so in terms of the people, I guess, how do we address, and you mentioned about, there's potential skill gaps or training needed, putting the lens on as a change champion, I guess, how do we address that skill gap? What are some of the things that, again, the people in the audience, HR leaders, can look at doing to actually enhance this implementation of an integration of AI in their workplace? So what are some of the ways we can go about skill enhancement? If you'd like to give us a go on that one. Anna.
I would like to say that it is so much important to press a lot of emphasis on areas that enhance the leading aspect of the human aspect of work. So I will explain. So, and I want to be very practical with that. So in a lot of roles right now, people really feed data. In other roles also, they might do a mechanical way of working. These kind of tasks are going to be eliminated. So by eliminating these tasks, you create the need, though, for people that can really translate the data, for people that really can dice and slice things and understand what's going on with this data. You really also need people that can see horizontally the organization and understand much more than the vertical part that they are situated in. So these things that I'm offering as an example create two important things that you need to develop within the organization. One is the analytical skills and the analytical way of thinking. And second, really, a much more strategic way of thinking that we had in the past, which means that you need to press down within the organization a much more targeted way of thinking in a strategic way. That means that the organizational leaders need to create the conditions, and provide about these skills. A lot of times, though, the organizations, and I have to say that, do not have the resources to do that. They do not have the resources, the time, the money, or whatever, in order to provide these skills to the people. But the people need to be very much have the power and have the readiness to take things in their hands and learn more towards this direction anyway. So it is on the organization's part, but it is also on the human being's part, really, to gain this kind of knowledge, to gain this kind of skills that is required from them in order to lead AI. I want to emphasize that because in the today really organizations, we should not expect a passive human being that would wait from the organization to do things for him or her. Needs really to take action on his or her own.
I guess following that up, like if I'm a HR practitioner of one, or if I'm in a major, the leader of an enterprise in HR, what should I be doing, as this HR professional? What should I be doing to get myself, equipped best to deal with helping the organization adopt AI? So,
yeah. Rod, it's interesting because in my head, I'm seeing this mixed with the last question, right? If we don't know where we are, so what's the assessment of, let's call it skill sets gap, because that's the term that we use in our HR world, right? Where are the gaps with the skills? So even as an HR professional, what are those gaps? And it's not just about gaps, it's gaps relative to where you are for your current organization, right? It's not that we can't develop other skills that we could use elsewhere, but the important thing is understanding where are my gaps as an HR professional, as an employee, relative to where the organization is today and what it's saying that it wants to do tomorrow. Because if we don't know where we're starting and we just have a throw the spaghetti at the wall approach, no one's going to get anywhere, right? So it has to be very thoughtful.
Exactly, that's what worries.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to think about, people use strategy and strategic a lot. And in my mind, I'm like, the only thing it really means is having a well thought out plan. I hope to God that we want a well thought out plan about anything that we do. Forbes recently published an article and was talking about over 80% of employers say that, the companies that have employees with growth mindsets are the ones that are doing better, right? And that it's needed to actually drive profits. So if we think about it from that perspective, where we recognize that growth mindset is driving profits, then I don't know where I need to grow if I don't have an assessment of where my skills are. And my skills are relative to what the organization needs and where I need to go. And that is the first place. We have to stop thinking of this so much as I've walked into a buffet and I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to get, and think about it. But what's the curated menu that we can put before people so that they're still opting in, but they're opting in under more controls, right? It's just, and I know I've mentioned this reference on these panels before, flash mob. To learn the whole dance is taught in sections. And then by the end, everyone's doing it. It's the same approach. How do we teach the pieces in sections? And whenever you're starting that, you're always starting with the piece that people can then pick up other things easily from. But it has to start with, where am I today relative to where the organization or the team that I'm on or whatever that is has to go. And to a point that Anna made earlier, not everybody is going to go through the transformation, but the important thing is that everybody in the organization should be clear about who is going through the transformation, what that transformation means, and what it's going to do for that. Because because FOMO is real, because if someone thinks, well, why is the finance department trying to get in this and we're not, that also will breed a lot of discontentment. And you don't want that type of mindset in any change management process. Because if you don't you have to build awareness, right? Thinking about ProSci, but I cannot activate desire in somebody else. They have to opt into that. And that's the way that I always think about it. So we have to be clear with people about not only who it is, what it is, but where they are and where you need them to go. And then have a plan around, how am I going to help you get there, specific to where we are today.
No, I think, again, you made some amazing points there, Charmaine. And I think one of the things, I guess when I started my career, is that when I looked at the professional associations, they actually laid out here's the things you need to know, a bite-sized bits that you could work on to progress and get higher levels of certification. I don't know if I see that in equally, we in this domain of AI. I don't know that the like associations have sort of caught up. If I'm an individual coming into the profession, I'm not sure that that bite-sized sort of plan or standard, I guess I'll call it a standard, is there. I think it's still being worked out as well. If that makes any sense.
And the irony is that we could use AI to ask AI for its help developing a plan for us to upskill, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
other piece too.
right.
Like I don't, I think with associations, and look, I'm a part of a few of them. I think for everything in life, it's what's the value that I'm going to get from this. If I'm just going to be spending more money, but there's not going to be real value, I'm not really going to engage with it, right? I talk about my nephew all the time. He's 4. He likes to fact check us with AI. He will say, "Well, let me ask Siri," after we tell him something, right? So it's part of what the process is that we're in right now. But I have to see a value to spend my time. We have so many things coming at us right now. If I'm going to sit down and dedicate time to something, I have to understand the value. And I talk about this a lot within my friends. My first couple degrees are in technology, so I'm like, I love this stuff. But really, it's if I'm going to spend more time in this, what am I getting? And if I can ask AI for a plan to help me understand AI, I may just do that.
Exactly. All right, I think we better move on. Golly gosh, we're 40 minutes in already, and we've sort of really gone to 2 blocks of sort of themed questions. So we better definitely move on. All right, so I'm going to come back to Anna, and I'm going to come back to Anna relating to, I guess, the topic you brought up at the start, which was around how do we ensure the AI aligns with the goals of the business? How do we avoid short-term solutions in favor of what we're actually trying to achieve long-term? So let's dive a bit more deeper into this, focusing on goals. So over to you, Anna.
Sure, thank you very much. I would like to say, and that I will connect it also to your previous question. HR professionals really need to think a little bit more like organizational design experts. So not because it's my expertise, no, only because really the whole disruption that is happening within organizations redefines how we design our organizations. And that starts from the small thing to the big one, and vice versa. With that being said, that's the reason that we really need to be very specific on what we're trying to achieve. I say that having the end in mind is important. And with that being said, I don't say that in a vague way. When you implement something, you really need to know what you want to achieve. And that is absolutely very important. People call that strategy. So, and that is very much understanding what you want to achieve as an organization within the market that you operate or within the markets that you want to operate in the future. So you really need to understand what are the strategic drivers of your actions, why I do these things, what I'm trying to do over there. And when you have these kind of 2 things, then you can start redefining what are the capabilities that you need to have. So, okay, in order to achieve these things, I need to be good at these and these, and I need to achieve that in this way, in this way, in this way. So if you understand what are the capabilities that you need to have in order to achieve what you need in the market, then you start really implementing AI and doing things. In order to do that, you really need to be very specific in the way you do it, and you unfold it, yes, in an agile way, which means interfunctionally, cross-functionally, but you really need to do that in a way that would be very independent within the organization. Give the power to the small teams that are going to do it, and all these small teams become the whole. With that being said, that means that in order to implement in a successful way, all these teams need to be aligned under the same thinking. So how do you achieve that? So how do you have small teams that move fast, but they are aligned in their way of thinking? That means that you really need to condition to condition how these things are going to take place. In order to condition how these things are taking place, you really need for you to create the framework of the whole shift. You really need to be the architect of the framework that this shift is going to take place from A to B stage. So that means that you really need to be there. The same way that you build a house. I mean, you don't build a house without really having a blueprint over there, right? So you need to create that before you start shifting things, so that people really align on that. And although they might be operating here or in Asia or in Europe, they will still really follow that in its, I mean, at its majority, of course, but mainly the principles of that. And that is so much important. So I would like to say as a conclusion that it is important to make sure that you have a framework on how you're redesigning the way you operate, and also having a framework on how we do these things, attitudes, behaviors, always. You put it down there, and then you monitor the shift from A to B. So, and I would like afterwards to offer a practical tip on how you can do that at the behavioral level.
Thanks, Anna. Who'd like to build on Anna's start on dealing with the long-term goals and alignment? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, to circle back to some of the topics that we just recently were discussing, I think it's important to assess, you know, you talked about from an HR leadership perspective, what one would need, or an individual contributor. I think it's all the same skill set that, you know, really good HR practitioners have in place to begin with: emotional intelligence, you know, change management, and really being able to try to be the leaders of the organization. A lot of organizations, they look to HR to be those leaders and to be doing things, you know, accurately and you know, transparently. Doesn't mean that they are. I mean, I'll be truthful in that. There's many organizations that, although people are looking for that, that's not where they're at today. But it is thinking about, you know, how is it that you're going to approach AI? I also come from a school of thought that it really is about getting your hands on and experimenting. So if you're an individual contributor, you can have overnight impact to your job. I mean, 100-fold. It is really, really important to be able to experiment and to see what is going to work for you personally, but also from an organizational standpoint. It doesn't have to be, although of course the ideal state is to have a plan, and we've all spoken about how important that is. It is also about having that open-mindedness of getting your hands on things and experimenting, getting in some quick wins so that you can be able to share that with the organization on how it is that has, you know, impacted HR, and being able to share that outward. And that's really for, you know, any of the different functions and departments. And I think it's you know, really important to, you know, fail fast. There's going to be things that you thought would work and they're not going to, and that's completely fine. You know, some of the most successful technology companies, it's about being able to have an open mindset and to be able to, you know, fail fast, and that's okay. I also would encourage people to even start with themselves personally. Just try it out on your own at home with no company info, no confidential, you know, data, etc. Right? Until that is ready from an organization standpoint. See what works for you. What do you like? You know, really get your hands on to be able to get yourself comfortable, you know, with the ability to use AI. I have yet to meet a person that has even been completely scared and they've tried something out and that they're not amazed at, you know, being able to see what it can do for them. And so I really encourage that. I mean, if you think about, you know, even just ChatGPT, and you look at that, you can make a custom, you know, GPT that helps you with anything that you want, and it's quite easy. You don't have to be the most tech savvy person. You don't have to be an IT person. You don't have to. It's really just about, you know, having that open mindedness and, you know, being able to be okay with failure, because that's where we learn.
No, that's a great change management guidance there. I think, you're so right. Like scaling, starting small is where you're going to learn lessons. And one of the lucky things I did right at the start of my career is we did a course about change, and we spent the first half of the day learning how to juggle, and it was all about just learning to, give it a go, learning that failure was okay, to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and then being able to, get better and, go from juggling from 2 to 3, maybe 4 balls was what people were able to achieve by just that thing of just starting small and celebrating when you made a mistake, and getting that sort of mindset over there is pretty critical. So then that approach, have anyone, I guess, seen that in your experiences with the companies you work with? Of how are some of the companies you're working with going about the deployment or the phased deployment of AI at the moment? Got any sort of hands-on practical tips you can share with the audience?
Well, some of the practical tips I can share, most of the organizations I work with are very small businesses and small startups. So I would probably echo most of what has been said by my peers here is, really to start where you are. If you have no idea, look for an end at sight and be just very agile in terms of your implementation and involving your team members and your employees. So what I've seen is there's a start in a specific department, maybe it be customer service, and there's a deployment of a chat enabled processing for that individual. So it starts right from the beginning, and then from there build upon those successes and those achievements. And so the other teams can see that, and they also model those same type of behaviors. So they're able to adapt and to adopt and continue that same momentum. So I think it's important just to really, truly start where you are, to really look at what do you need, how can you grow from that, and how can you build from that.
Yeah. I love that we were talking, and I thought about Manola Jack, who is part of this Hack and HR community, and she always says, let's go agile, not fragile, right? So it's that same concept. We want to make sure that there's flexibility built in. There has to be flexibility built in. As humans, the pivot is something that we do. Change is guaranteed in life. It's the only guaranteed constant. So we have to be willing to be flexible, because that's really important. And find our champions. Just like any good change management process, who are your champions? Who are your hype people? Who are the people that are going to be jazzed about this and get everybody else on board? Identify those people, bring them in. It's really important to make sure that you have that. And then what's that alignment piece, right? There's a technology and the people alignment, right? That has to be a happy union, or at least a union that feels excited. Again, it's the WIFM has to be answered for people. What's in it for me? When we start there, and you start there with understanding, to Anna's point that's come up a few times now, is what's the end goal? Because when you understand what the end is, it's very easy to get, to figure out, it's easier to figure out, how do I help people understand what's in it for them, right? My end goal sometimes, if I'm with my nephew, is to get him to bed. What are the things I need to do to get him excited about going to bed, right? Because the end goal is, I need a break, you need to sleep. How do we back in from there? So it's really important to understand, to Anna's point, what is the end? Because then you can walk it back. But even part of that has to have that mindset of, being agile, because something's going to pop up that you cannot plan for. It's going to. Even if you ask AI is not going to think of the things that a human is going to think of to take it off course or just add to the element of it. And that's where the diversity piece and diversity of perspectives and cultures and lived experiences has to come in. That is not something that AI can do. So there's still a lot of things that humanity adds to this union that AI alone cannot, and we have to keep that in mind.
Well, we've only got 6 minutes left, which this has gone really quick, and I've had so many more questions I was planning to get to, but that's all right. We have to adjust. So in terms of adjusting, we've spoken a lot about purpose, about challenge, about HR leaders. Now, within an organization, there's more than HR leaders. So I'm just wondering what sort of role, or how do we get sort of cross-functional teams, so beyond HR, working with the business, working with IT, to play a role and to work together to successfully integrate AI, so to introduce the change we're trying to achieve. So what's some tips about working with cross-functional teams, and how valuable is that? I might start with Cara.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most important, and I think also being within a global organization, you also have to think about regionally and locally, and thinking about things from that scale as well, right? Everyone looks at things differently, has different perspectives, especially if you have a diverse workforce. And so it's really about starting early. A lot of the things that we've already spoken about, making sure that you have champions, that you have them from cross-functional areas, that very early on in the process, you're identifying those people. Doesn't mean that they have to be, really high on the AI readiness scale. You might not have any of those within the organization. So really just identify the right people that can have the right, frame of mind to be able to help champion, to be able to look at the organization and to identify some areas that, can we start with, and to get quick wins. And then, think about it from a overall, cultural shift. Just be open to things. One of the things that I think that we haven't addressed here that I would like to just say quickly is, I think it's really important, regardless of where an organization is on their AI journey, that you have some sort of guidelines out there. I talk to executives all the time, and each one of them says, well, I'm using it for this, but, we're not really, supposed to be doing that, or what. It's happening. So it is happening. So put some guidelines in place to at least temporarily. You don't have to have all the answers for the end goal to begin with. Immediately put some guidelines in place so that you don't end up with, confidential information out where you don't want it to be. And make sure that, you just take the time to just put, even if it's a temporary, guidelines or policy, it doesn't matter which one, so that your organization is on the same, place when it comes to what you want to be done from an AI perspective as you do, because the transition is going to take a while. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but it is happening overnight. So it is a matter of making sure that you're having that transparency, and that you are getting people early on to be the champions. So
Yeah, lots of really good points there, and yeah, the concern about am I doing the right thing with what I'm doing? I think it's a real concern across many organizations. Fortunately, my organization, like with a ChatGPT, we have our own in-house ChatGPT equivalent. So that means you can use it safely for the organization, but I can imagine not everyone has that. So, all right. So we've only got a couple of minutes to go. So if you want to just, I guess, add what's a key takeaway that you'd like to leave with the audience today. So I'll start with Anna.
I would like to say, adding up to what has already been said, in order to make that happen, you really need to have a very good sponsorship by the executive leadership. And that is very much instrumental into making things happen. That clarity of the strategy and the vision, in combination with good executive sponsorship, it's going to lead you clearly and at a quick pace to where you want to go. This can be combined with some good governance infrastructure. As has already been alluded by Cara, It's so much important to have clarity on how we do things and how we're going to utilize AI in general. But if you have a good governance in everything, including data utilization, infrastructure, and how you utilize AI for these things, this creates a lot of transparency and clarity within the organization, and less fear on how this is going to be utilized. And with that being said, I want very much to emphasize the fact that organizations inevitably will go through the AI integration, inevitably. I mean, some quicker than the others, but still everyone is going to reach that level. Those that gain that earlier might have an advantage. But eventually all will end to that level as well. I would like to say as a last word that we need to be institutionalizing the role of the employees, because we say that we need to have them as champions. We really need to have their support. Okay, do that, and do that in a transparent way, which means that make sure that these people are part of the decisions, make them part of the committees, officially. Make them part of, create a network, a change network, make them part of those that they're going to learn first what's going to happen, or they're going to be the ones that are going to have a saying in what's going to happen. So make that official. That's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Anna. Charmaine, what would you like to finish it off with?
Yeah, prioritize transparency. That would be the key takeaway that, in terms of the transformation. And for me, it's just a reminder, use AI to help enhance, not replace.
Thanks, Charmaine. And Angelique?
Yeah, so I would just leave with make it very people-centric, very humanistic, have inclusive engagement and collaboration, and that will really help to get buy-in amongst every team. And lastly, don't focus AI introduction or implementation only on IT and human resources. It involves everyone.
It does. Do you want to add one last point, Cara?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, if you just approach it that it's change management, and anything and everything you think about that is important for a successful change to happen, if you do those things, you'll be successful no matter how large or small the implementation is.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, the whole panel. It's been a good, quick conversation. Yeah, I'm glad I was up at 1 a.m. for it. So have a good rest of your day, and thank you everyone who joined us today. So thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Get some
Thank
rest,
you.
Rod.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.